Holy shit, Nick, we did it. Thanks,
Finally,
man.
huh?
Yeah, no shit, dude. Dude, technology, man, it's a pain in the ass. Like every time I get this shit figured out, I gotta buy something new because what I had figured out shits the bed on me. Whether it's a headset, microphone, the new camera, it's just podcasting isn't as simple as what you make it out to be.
Oh, it's a son of a bitch, dude.
Yeah.
I've been doing it for what, almost 3 years now. I I don't know how the fuck you do so many episodes. I look at you, you're like 100, you're like six behind me, bro. I've been doing it for 3 years.
Yeah, dude,
You do like three a week, huh?
I gotta slow down, dude. I'm not even getting paid for this shit. You know what I mean? It's like
I hear you.
it's like a full time job, but no full time benefits at all.
Do you have a full time job as well?
Yeah, I'm a full time paramedic.
Fuck, how do you find the time to do this?
I don't know. I mean, I do live in like the country. I'm married. I got a kid and everything. So I live like that home life. But I live out in the country, and so I don't. I mean, if I'm not fishing, if I'm not working, then I'm usually down in the basement, doing man shit, whether it's podcasting or I don't know, working on shit, things like
Yeah.
that. So I don't know. I have the time. I don't know how I do it, but it works. It works itself out.
Where how close do you live to, like, you do all the kayak tournaments, right?
Yeah.
So you like Adam Reiser, you live close to him or no?
No, we don't live close. I know him. He lives in
Okay.
Tennessee. I'm in like upstate New York, like
Oh, okay. All right.
way upstate. I got to throw a rock and hit some Canadian in the head.
Oh shit.
I mean, so like it's yeah. I live Syracuse, New York, like north of there.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, do you know I just had a dude on first cast, young kid Alex.
Alex, I mean, maybe.
Oh god, Alex he has a Instagram site. He lives in Syracuse. He's a young kid, a pond hopper. He's probably like 18.
Huh.
His name's like First, I think it's a First Cast Fishing or First. I'll point you at him, but he lives locally. He's a dude, he catches a lot of big fish on swim baits.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really
Yeah.
weird because like I don't use a lot of swim baits, but they do pretty good up here from right here because we have a lot of those like deep lakes, trout and things like that. So I imagine that swim baits will be pretty successful in a lot of these. Like we got like big reservoirs, man, like deep natural lakes and stuff like that. So I don't know. I mean, we probably fish a lot of the same waters.
Yeah, no, he's a cool kid. Syracuse, like I told him, the only reason I know Syracuse is I used to play in hardcore bands
Yeah.
about 20 years ago, and there's a
Hellfest.
big, well, the biggest hardcore band that I listened to was Earth Crisis. They're from Syracuse.
Okay, I know, like, because back in my teens, I was really big into the hardcore. Like, when like hardcore had that weird, like whatever, like late '90s, early 2000s, like hardcore just blew up. You had bands like, obviously there was like Earth Crisis, but you had like Poison the Whale came out, Shy Halud, 18th Vision, like all these like just.
Now you're talking. So I used to play with all those bands. So my band was Hurricane Ron at the time. We were from the West Coast, but we played. I remember we opened. I have a video I'll send you. We played 2 songs. We opened for Poison the Well and Martyr. Remember Martyr AD?
Yeah.
So we opened for them, but I played a million shows with 18 Visions, and then I had Brian Lipke on. He's a kayak tournament guy on the West Coast. He's also the guitar player from Bleeding Through.
Okay, Bleeding Through. Now that was the guitar player that played for 18th Vision, started
Yes.
Bleeding Through.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brian, that's a God. His name's not coming to me. Brandon. I forgot his name, but he was a real cool dude. He was a cool cat, and he hooked up our band. But then I reconnected with Lipke because of Adam. Adam goes, "Hey, I started the podcast." He goes, Lipke's a big angler. I'm like, really? So I looked into it, and he was a huge saltwater angler. Then he got into the bass tournament scene over here and did really good.
Yeah, because I grew up in Florida, and so like the bands like Evergreen Terrace.
Yeah.
Like, we literally like grew up together. We played in bands together. And we used to play in Tallahassee together all the time. And then Under Oath, back before. But I'm in like Under Oath back when they were like a metal band.
Now they're like a
screamo band, but like
yeah.
The lead singer was Dallas, and they were like crazy Christian dudes. But I mean, like, it was metal. It was like double bass and just getting after it.
Yeah, that's what I did, man. When I was 22, I quit. I was in a band called Donnybrook, and they went on tour. They did a lot of stuff, and the the guitar player went to be on into a band called Terror, and then
Terror.
yeah.
Yeah, I know.
So
Terror. Yeah, no Terror.
so I'm still friends with the dudes from. So here's a little background, I guess, on my music. So I played in Donnybrook. I quit Donnybrook because I had a kid. So the singer from Donnybrook, another singer, there's two. There was Bo Thompson and there was Andrea Stewart. Still friends to this day, but me and Bo became a little closer, and he started another band called Snake Eyes, which consists of me, this dude Corey Williams from this band called Internal Affairs, a straight edge band, and then Todd Jones, the dude from Snake Eyes. He's in Nails now, and we did a small tour. I did a small tour with them when my wife was pregnant. So I mean, that was like the last band thing, and then after that, it was Adam Reiser. We became buds because we were in a band called Lone Wolf, and it was me. It's so funny. Adam Reiser, Mark Chinoir. I know I fucked his name up. You heard Mark? He's another kayak guy from your way. He's a buddy of mine too as well. So both of them were into fishing before I got into it. And then they were ready to leave. Adam's like, hey, I'm moving back east. And we were supposed to connect and go hit all these ponds. And he was super into it. We never did. Well, years later, he still talks to my friend Bo. And he's like, hey, you know, Nick does this podcast. He's like, fuck. And then we reconnected that way more, you know. And same thing with Mark. He's been on the podcast before, but we're going to redo it now since he's got a lot of stuff in the works right now.
Oh, cool, man. Well, shit, small world. Before we get into this thing, man, you want to just introduce yourself real quick, like who you are, what you do.
Yeah.
I mean, like you're one of my first. Like I don't most obviously, I do a podcast for like kayak anglers, but you know, like I also do big boat guys and pros. And you're the first in between guy, so I'm pretty excited. So introduce yourself. Let everyone know who you are.
My name's Nick Trujillo. I do a podcast called Cast and Crank. Started about I see September of 2000 and I think 18. So it's been a while. It's had its ups and downs where I've wanted to quit doing it because it fucking's a headache. And but it's great. I've met a shitload of cool people. The fishing knowledge is out of control. I get these dudes on like Butch Brown, and shit I get to learn is like no one really gets to hear the insides. But starting to make a little off of it. I mean, this year we had Phoenix sign as our main title sponsor. Patreon does great. I'm stoked. And yeah, I mean, the way I do it is I used to be a recording engineer, so no offense to Zoom. Like, this is cool, but I fucking hate it. I just can't. You're different. I could tell it's hard when you do a fucking podcast and someone doesn't want to talk. And especially on Zoom, I know you fucking know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But you got to pull teeth sometimes, and that's not me. So
dude,
what I usually do.
There's sometimes where like the guy, like you ask a question and he opens his mouth, you're like, it's like, fuck, I got to do this for 30 minutes. You know, and that's a short show. You know, I think I have some podcasts that go like an hour and 30 minutes, but like, you know, you always want to make it last, 30 minutes, not to waste people time.
Mine's an hour. So
hours good, but like there's some guys it's like, I got to make this go 30 minutes. It's nothing against those people. They're great human beings, but like, podcasting and talking like this, it's there's a little bit of skill to it. Like you're having a conversation with someone that it takes a little skill, and some people that they can fish their ass off, but they can't talk to save their life.
And it sucks because it's you get some guys on, and I'm not going to name names because it sucks, but you get some guys on where you think, fuck yeah, dude, this is going to change it. This is going to, and they just don't talk. Yeah. And you're like, fuck me, really, man? And then I get guys on where I'm like, this guy might be cool, and we end up having a sick fucking podcast. But I do a lot of lubricating. So what I do is we get fucked up most of the time we're doing the podcast, which it can bite you in the ass. And it has probably about 10 times where, I did some big guest, and they're like, hey, dude, we can't release that. And I go, really, man? They go, no. So we redo it. I've had dudes pass out in my backyard. I've had guys throw up. You saw the video. I've thrown up in my backyard. I mean... And then I've had serious ones where dudes start crying about like some crazy shit, and it goes up and down. But I think you're learning, and I've learned that we kind of do something a little more edgy and rough than a lot of people do. And because I do that, I feel like it's a little different of a podcast where it's not as it's maybe a new age, like you're the newer age fisherman, like people that are in there like maybe 45, 55 to 20 is the kind of listeners I go after because, I say bad shit, dude. My kids yell at me. My wife, I say fuck all the time. I say, that's just how I talk, man. I grew up doing construction,
Right. Well, to me, like, when I first like, I've always wanted to do a podcast. You know what I mean? Like probably for the last 10 years, like when podcasts kind of just started, I always want to do it, but it's like one of those things. It's scary to start and come up with a concept and working it and those kind of things. It just took me forever, to get on board with it. And like 2 years ago, I started my first podcast. Was kind of was like a dad podcast, but it was like a podcast like we do now. It's like being a dad, but being a real dad. Like real dads say fuck. Real dads get drunk and pass out and wake up hungover the next day. And you got to take care of kids. You know what I mean? So it was a cool podcast, but one of the things that it didn't bite me in the ass, but like when you don't look at you look at a podcast, like it is like a business in the sense that like you have a brand, you have a title, you have all these things. And so my podcast, like what the show became wasn't what the title, you know what I mean? Like it didn't go together. And so I had to switch to that. And then, I found fishing. And like one of the things about fishing, when I did a fishing podcast is like, and it's not the time, I am talking shit about the fishing world. It's like,
hey, let's do it. I'm ready.
When you look at like shows and podcasts and network TV, they're all the same. They're all the same. They're just good old boys. They ain't hurt no one, and out there, and and they talk about fit. It's just very dry to me. Like there was no like flavor into it, and that's why guys like the Guggen Squad and all those nerds get really famous and stuff because they're the only ones that are out there, acting the way they did and like had some like swag and some attitude. And the same thing with the podcast. I love these podcasts, but like they're the same podcasts. Like like one show to the next, it's like the same thing. You can get a lot out of it, but like to me, like podcasts all about like it was all about broadcasting yourself. Like be yourself and whatever, market yourself.
But this is the hard part. This is the rebuttal to that is when you get serious enough, like this is a part-time job for me now.
Yeah. Because
I do the live. I got to edit all this. I do the back and forth Joe Rogan style. I do the titles. I do the audio. I master it, do everything. So, one episode takes me 8 hours of work at least. Okay. So, at the same time, you got to go, well, I love saying fuck. I probably haven't gotten a lot of sponsors because of the way I talk.
I was thinking,
and I'm not kidding. I'm not joking. Like, a lot of people won't fuck with me because of the way I talk. I get it. But at the same time, like, I listen to, like, Ike and Nelly. I've listened to Bass Talk Live. I listened to Luke Duncan. I've listened to all these. I like them. But I like a little bit of everything in my podcast. The closest one I could probably get to would be, like, yours maybe, or even like if you listen on the West Coast, there's a guy named Jake. He does Outdoors Unfiltered, and we kind of talk back and forth, and he gets fucked up sometimes and messes up. That's the fun part, and you don't need to get fucked up. Sometimes it's just saying some funny stuff that's happened.
Yeah,
the whole purpose when I started the podcast was to get people that liked fishing, but did something else.
Right.
So like, the biggest crossover I've had has been like the owner of Fearless Records, Andy Sorrell. He's a buddy of mine, so he came on, but he's a huge angler. Like, he loves fishing. He's a big saltwater guy. So that's what I wanted in the original game. But to build that, I had to find dudes that just like fishing. And I got really lucky because I met a lot of swim bait guys that I get along with. Like, Swim Bait Underground, all the guys. They've been great. So I was able to get all these guys on because we have a fun time. Manny Cheese crazy like me, like, we'll say some stupid shit or, that's what I'm looking for. Something like almost like an everyday fisherman where sometimes people talk about shit and I'll be like, I don't know what that is, dude. Like a spy bait. I'm like, I never used a fucking spy bait in my life. I don't know what the fuck it is, and I've been fishing for 10 years. I'm not the best fisherman, but I feel like sometimes I'll put shit out that like I'll second guess myself. I'll be like, shit. Like we did the Delta Roundtable with the guys from Toxic Baits and Danny. Part of me goes, man, I shouldn't release this because we got fucked up. Like, it was bad. And then I'm like, you know what, fuck it, gonna do it. Then I got messages from dudes going, hey, dude, thanks for doing that. I'm like, what do you mean? I felt like I was there drinking with you. And I'm like, oh, cool, man. Like,
yeah.
In back of my head, I'm going, I should not put this out. This,
dude, like, I'm not gonna lie. There's been some, and maybe it's happened to you, but like, I've had to redo shows, not because my guests, because like one of the things like I envy about you and your show is like your setup. And also the ability that you have in, I'm just going to say, like, California, as much shit as people talk about it, California is just a mecca for cool people, man. It's like, the show that you have and the ability to bring in anglers the way you bring in and the type of people you be able to bring in. It has a lot to do with your location. There's no cool people like that up here in upstate New York. You know what I mean? I can't open my basement and like have a lounge and expect like Bradley Hallman or some of these other big anglers to come hang out with me because they're just not in upstate New York. I said maybe once a year. And I don't have that ability to do that. So all my conversations are like this, but you have it like set up to where it's like, in a perfect world, I would love to have like your setup where I had a place where people met and they come in, we talk face to face, we eat, we drink, and we have a great time. Those are my favorite kind of podcasts. Like if everyone asks like why Joe Rogan crushes it, because Joe Rogan's not doing a Zoom call. Joe Rogan brings people in, they smoke a blunt, or they take some shots, and then they have great, real fun conversations. And it never really feels like an interview. Like when I watch this show, it doesn't feel like an interview, and you don't know what's going to happen with the show, which I think is the funnest. But let me ask you this: is it ever like, because of that, because the way you have it and like the way you're structured, do you ever feel like you kind of like shot yourself in the foot maybe by sticking to like fishing Pacific? That's like one of the things I have about running a podcast, because I love podcasting. I love it. But sometimes you box yourself in because I'm the, because here's one of the things for me. I'm a kayak fishing podcast. I end up having more fun conversation with people outside the kayak world. And so it's like, but it's hard for me to change that brand, that name now, and go outside that box because it's something as simple as the name of my show.
How long have you been kayak fishing for?
About 4 years, 5 years.
How long have you been fishing your whole life?
Not like this. Like now,
how long seriously have you been fishing?
Serious fishing, probably about like 5-6 years. I mean, I've always fished. Okay. I grew up in Panama. I grew up in Florida, so I fished, but it wasn't like a passion like it was, when I started doing the kayak fishing.
So I feel like it's a hard one for me. So there's a lot of times where dudes are gonna be like, I've heard it from people like, does that dude even know how to fucking fish? I never talk about my fishing. Well, I'm a little more now, but I don't talk about what I do or what I know, because I don't feel like it's ain't about me. It's about the guest most of the time. Or it's about a conversation where we get into something where I always tell people, I cut people off because I get fucking excited. I have ADD, man. I can't fucking stop talking. I got anxiety. I fucking have all kinds of shit wrong with me, and that's one of the things is I've tried hard to stop cutting people off. I know it. I see the fucking comments, and it's just hard for me to do because I get excited, dude. When you get someone on that you click with, it's like, fuck, But for the fishing part, to answer that question is, I don't want to do a hardcore podcast. I know a lot of hardcore dudes, and I grew up with a lot of hardcore guys, but most of them are fucking cunts that I know already, and I don't want to deal with them.
Right.
So I would rather do something where I don't know anyone, and when I do meet them, I'll be like, oh shit, we have this in common, music. Oh shit, we have, something. I used to ride bikes, okay, a long time ago in a bike shop. We get BMX involved. Oh great, music's usually the thing I hit the head on because I play it enough to be like, I went on tour. I had shit on iTunes like from a long time ago. I played enough to know enough dudes to where it's like, okay, I'm like a rookie angler. I'm like a rookie musician,
Right.
And I played bass, drums, guitar, and I was a recording engineer before. So this is all easy shit for me to do because I used to record bands, and if I don't know it, I call up one of my buddies that's like a mastering engineer. He'll tell me what to fucking do, and then cool, But I mean, yeah, I always thought of starting a podcast. I told my wife, 3 years ago, I'm like, hey, I want to start a podcast. And she's like, all right. So I knew how to do everything already. So I started it. And it took a long time to when I first started, I messaged blindly. I'm going to say 30 people, 40 people. And no one got back to me. I had 3 dudes get back to me. One of them was this guy, Danny. He runs this page called Harbor Creepers. He's local, like a spotty calico guy, which is our kind of own little thing on the west coast. Then I had Charles Del Novice. He's Tattooing. If you follow him on Instagram, he's a big tattoo artist out of here, and he's also does all kinds of fishing. So I met some of those guys, and then Big Gus, and then a lot of people would come on and be like, "What's your deal? What's your plan?" I'm like, I don't fucking know. I have no clue. I'm just going, dude. And at first I was putting out 4 a week or 4 a month, and then now I do 6 to. I try to do maybe like a smaller, 2 smaller guys, 1 bigger guy, 2 smaller guys,
Yeah.
But I mean, it's had its ups and downs where I could feel when it starts getting to be too much, like it's taken away from my fishing dramatically. I'd be fishing twice a week out of my boat, and now I fish once every other week. But I'm working on my boat a lot. I just finished redoing it, so it's a hard deal. I'll tell you that.
I haven't had like, don't get me wrong. There's been times there's been times where I wanted to shut it down, but not because it was getting hard, but just because I didn't see the point of it. I didn't see to this day, like I don't know where it's going. I don't know what the goal is. I don't know what you would consider being a successful podcast. I don't know what that means. I mean, unless you sign a $1 billion deal with Spotify, I don't know what success is.
But what are you looking for, though? That's the question.
I have no idea, and that's why there was times like, yeah, I'm just gonna stop doing this shit. I have no direction of where I want to go and what I want this to be, and then all of a sudden, like I get video message from people shotgunning beers. I'm like, oh, that's what I want to do. I want to have a good time. I forgot when I was doing this. I'm here to have a good time, and and people message me and they're like, oh, you're the real deal, and I'm like, I don't know what that means, but I appreciate the love and the support and things like that. And then when I go to the tournaments and people recognize me, and it's like there's this little bit of like I wouldn't say notoriety, and it's but it's cool notoriety because it's not like I mean it's like I'm shotgunning beers at the boat launch and shit like that. You know what I mean? Like if anything,
that shot me in the foot. 100% shot me in the foot because at the same time I've been known as kind of like the drinking podcast as well. So it's like sometimes I'll be like, "Fuck, I got to stop drinking, dude." I'm a lot, And then someone will come and bring an 18-pack. I'll be like, "All right." Like the last Haggard Pirate episode, I wasn't planning on drinking. They brought out a bottle of Jameson. They got sponsored by 805. I'm like, "Fuck, I have to drink now." So I mean, I'm the same way, but now it's kind of like, okay, you try to rate yourself. Like I look at Bass Talk Live. I think of them as the gold standard, they're at the top of the echelon. When I look at the charts, I see Bass Talk Live on top, and me, I'd be like, man, I'd like to just be higher than them one day. That's it. If that could happen, cool. It's happened one time. And the thing with the charts, when you look at podcast ratings, they don't stay the same. They'll go up and down, up and down. So one day you'll be at 101, one day you'll be at 22, depending on the episode, But I mean, at the same time, it's like I'll never quit my job.
Yeah.
Even if I made money, I still wouldn't quit my job. Like, part of me goes, you know what? Fuck it, I just will do whatever I want. The part of me goes, well, it's nice having, a sponsor. Like being a big dog is kind of like my goal would be able to be like, man, this is cool. I can travel. I can go up north for 4 days, take 2 of those days with the kids, take the other 2 and podcast the whole time, go to Arizona, go back east. Who knows,
Yeah. I know. I guess it's just like you don't realize because there's no blueprint to this. You don't realize where it's going to go. Give me one second. I got to say good night to the little man.
No problem.
No, buddy.
Can you wave?
You want to wave at him? All right. Love you, buddy.
Night, bud.
So, yeah. But, there was no like when someone reached out to me and said they want to sponsor me, I was like, what? It's like it just didn't seem real. It didn't seem like it was something that you could like make any money off doing. Like I don't understand. Like when we talk like the YouTube guys, it's like how did you decide that this was going to be monetary and there's going to be some value in this and that you were going to make this a career? Like it just like how did you decide that one day? You know what I mean? It's like, but they do and they have, and so it kind of snuggled me with the podcast. Like I said, I'm nowhere near someone like Bass Talk Live or something like that, but still like. Like when I've been doing this for a year and all of a sudden somebody wants to pay me to just put their logo or whatever, I'm just like, well, Jesus Christ, like what should I do now?
That's amazing.
My problem is I'm not sure what to do with that now. It's like because here's the thing, it's like I'm not like a genius at this yet. There's still so much I got to learn. Like I don't like it's simple. Like my way of podcasting is like I send that link, you click on it, and I hit record, and that's it, bro. I put it on. I go through the Anchor app. I put like a little intro music and I'll crack on a beer and do a little intro for the show, and that's it, dude. There's no, there's those other podcasts. Like it starts off like a big drum roll, and it goes into like these crazy commercials and things like that. And I'm like, you're not getting that out of me yet. You can't get that out of me.
So yeah, that I mean, I have a cookie cutter the way I do it. Like I listen through the whole thing just to make sure there's nothing bad shit's gotten through a couple times. I'm like I gotta, I'll usually ask the guest when they come. I'll be like, hey. Most of the time I let them listen back to it. So I'll mix it down and let them listen to it. They're like, can you take that out? And I'll do that just as a I appreciate them taking their time out to do this. So it's like, why not have them let them pull out what they need to pull out if it's something that they don't want anyone to hear,
Right.
But it's but I never want to make anyone sign an NDA. You know what I'm saying? Like, and go, hey, this is going out. You're fucked. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, at the same time, it's like the podcasting thing is hard. I feel like, and then by no means am I. People like me and you've been listening to Joe. I listen to Joe Rogan since he started. I think episode like 80 or 70. Like,
right.
So I mean, it's been doing it forever. Everyone's doing it. I just didn't find a fishing podcast I liked at the time. I couldn't find one that I liked.
Well, I feel like when I started this, like when I started a fishing podcast, it wasn't meant to be like a fishing podcast. You know what I mean? It was like I really like you're the only show that I know that like that was what I wanted. And like when I started my podcast, this was like just before like COVID, whatever. I started like January or December before COVID happened. So I was getting ready. My goal was to travel to the tournaments, bring the software, bring the setup with me, and just talk to anglers at the tournament, at the campground, and just have a good time. Like it was supposed to be like a party, a traveling party to these tournaments because I love. Like I'm not a great tournament angler, but I love fishing tournaments because they're just so fun, dude. It's like back in the day we used to go chase shows. You know what I mean? Like, I'm never gonna be in a famous band, but I love to go watch the band play and hang out with the crowd. Go up there, walk on some heads, drink some beers and shit like that. And that was kind of like what I did with the fishing. And then obviously COVID happened, and I kept it going. And then it kind of turned into a fishing podcast, but it turned to a fishing, the way with what we do. But it was never supposed to be like like this is not like there's a reason why Garmin doesn't call me and say they want to put their there's a reason why those things I don't get those things because it was never meant to be like that. It was meant to be just a really good time. Like dude, I'm 38 years old. I'm shotgunning beer still. You know what I mean? Like this isn't like a serious fishing show. But the thing is like there's no way I could do like a Bass Talk Live. There's no way I could do those kind of shows because for one, I'm not that educated on the game, and two, I don't care. I don't care about it that much. I don't care about the it's like when, I love having people on here and I learn from people, but as far as like being that educational person and making fishing more than what fishing really is, because fishing to me is just a good time. Fishing to me is just like, dude, I work hard, I play hard, I'm gonna go get the line wet and things like that. So it just was never in the cards for me to be that kind of podcaster. But the thing is, like, if you do this shit long enough, and I think it's the something I don't really worry about, but it's like, dude, if I do this long enough, I'm probably gonna be pretty goddamn successful at it. I know that I've only been doing this for a year. Next thing you know, I got a paid sponsor. And it's nothing huge yet. It's nothing huge yet, but still at the same time, it's like, well, if I didn't do this for a year, that never would have happened. So what happens in 2 years? What happens in 3 years? What happens if I get my shit together, sober up, and actually take this shit serious? And you know what I mean? It's like, who knows? It's going to
change the dynamic. That's the whole issue. If I said, hey, I'm not drinking anymore, I'm not going to say one curse word. It won't be the same because I'm not going to talk like me. Like even like trying to be like I had Palanick on. Awesome podcast. Great interview. It just was. I still didn't talk like I would if we're fucking talking right now. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I just feel like, man, I got to be more professional. And on the Zoom, it's like you don't feel someone out as much as you would in person. Like, well, now this is a difference is I know you can talk. It's a big difference. If you know someone can talk, it's a different story. Like I've had a lot of saltwater guys on here that can talk.
Yeah.
Run their mouth, get drunk a little, have fun. But some of the, depending on the freshwater, a lot of them we get along. So. And I feel like I got lucky by kind of cornering the swim bait market a little bit, where I got a lot of fucking big swim bait guys from California on. So that kind of helped a lot.
California's like, I don't know what it is about California. Like my sister lives in like the in Alpine, California, which is pretty close to San Diego.
Yeah.
And I go, but here's the thing about like, and I envy, like, I love having California guests on my show because they're just the best. They're the most fun. They're covered in tattoos. At one point back in the 90s, they went to a NoFX concert.
Yeah.
It's just like, but everyone's like that. When I look at like the fishing tournaments they have there, when you see the picture of everyone there, it's my people. Everyone's covered in tattoos. They got neck tattoos. They got someone had like a NoFX tee. Like it's just like it's a bunch of punk rockers in their middle age who didn't make it in the music, so now they're anglers. And it's just like when I see your show and I see the people you have on and like everyone, it's like, dude, like the fishing scene's different there. It's not a very competitive scene. It's like guys like it's just punk rockers who are able to afford a boat and they go out there, they fish with their friends and drink beers and have a great time. It's like to me, it's like I would love to like vacation there just to hang out with some of these guys because they're just
It's
nuts.
fun,
They're
man.
nuts.
And a lot of these guys, I mean, I usually take dudes calico fishing because have you ever caught a calico and know anything about calico bass?
No, like the most I've fished is as far as saltwater stuff goes is like the Gulf Coast of Mexico.
Okay.
So I did like cobia and things like that.
Okay. So calico bass and spotted bay bass and sand bass. We have our own little fishery over here. I think it's from like Mexico to like Santa Barbara. Okay, not big, but we have tournaments from. I enter the rookie division, the tournaments. We have one coming up on Saturday. So when I tell people like that we get freshwater tournament guys that come and fish the saltwater tournaments, and I go, what do you think a spotted bay bass feels like? They said a 3-pound spotted bay bass fights like a 6-pound largemouth. Mm. So these things are like they fight. So like catching like an 18 or a 17-pound largemouth is like catching a 10-pound calico out here. Mm. These things will dog you, and it's fun because the fishery's pretty open all year. You could do it at night all the time. You could do it just throwing there's a lot of docks from the harbors, flipping docks for spotty stuff like that. So I mean, I when I bought my boat, it was for fresh water. It wasn't for salt. But the harbor's only like 20 minutes from my house. So I was like, well, shit. I started getting more into the salt. Then that changed the whole game. I just calico guy all the time,
Yeah.
So it's a cool. And then you meet a lot of dudes that actually like calico fishing. Or shit, look at Butch Brown. He started off calico fishing, in the 80s, shit like that. It's fucking wild.
Yeah. But I mean, like the scene you guys have there, like I said, like I just can't do it up here because we just don't have that. But like you, it's just like you can bring in these people, and there are kind of people, and I hate to say like there are kind of people, but it's like it's easy to talk to someone. You look over and you see they got a neck tattoo. Like, all right, we're probably gonna have a decent conversation. It's just the kind of person that gets a neck tattoo. They're that kind of person, okay? And it's just like, let me ask you this though, like with the guests you have, like one of the things, like there's people I won't, and like even big anglers, and they've even reached out to me a few times, but I won't have them on my show, or I won't respond to them, or I won't invite them on the show.
We call it on Cast and Crank, we call it big dicking. You're big dicking them, huh?
Well, yeah, but it's not just that, but it's like for one, like I've asked her to come on my show, and every time I ask her, I'm like, please don't answer, please don't say yes, please, and she hasn't yet, and that was Christine Fisher, because she's a hell of an angler, she's a hell of a person, just an incredible human being, but she's got like a purpose with what she's doing. Like she's a proud female. She's trying to bring more females into angling. She's trying to do away with the fish like she's here to fish, not wear fish bras. What I mean? She's here to like kick your ass and take your money, and she's trying to bring that more women like that into the sport, and women who get paid to be good fishers, not to be sexy and things like. But I mean, anyways, I'm talking too much about it. But it's like I have a hard time because I want her to come on my show because I know it'd be a great conversation. At the same time, it's like I don't want to put my name anywhere near hers because my show involves cursing and shit talking and like.
But that's fine. I think that when I tell people like even to get like if we're trying to get sponsored, it's like we're raw. I'm a raw show. Like I say some bad shit sometimes, and the dudes that come on to joke around say bad shit because they don't give a fuck, and that's how they are. Like for instance, like Aaron Britt, dude. He's like, I am what I am, dude. Like if you hear him talk, that's how he talks all the time, dude. And it's fucking hilarious to me. And I'm like, that's a real fisherman. Like he's some straight up shit. Now, the same thing on the touching with the women subject. It's finding the women are getting. I don't know a lot of these anglers, so I try to get validation from other people. So I'll go, hey, I'll call so and so or check with so and so and be like, hey, have you heard of her? Yeah, can she fish? A lot of handing off. I'm like, all right. Because I do want to find, if I find a woman to bring her on the show, I want to know she can fish.
Yeah.
Because that's part of the thing that I'm kind of like, I just want to make sure she knows how to fish. And if I don't know her, I'm like, I just don't want to be a girl with big titties and ass and be like, that's why she's,
Well, I guess like what I was getting at, like there's like there's a guy, for instance, like, and I got no problem with like religion or anything, but he's super religious. And like he has a t-shirt company or whatever. Like he puts out like and like that's all great. And it's just like I don't want to bring him on the show because I don't want to like. It's like, do I curse? I get drunk and I'm like you. I don't know what I'm gonna say, but it's going to be said. If there's something that I'm not supposed to say,
See, I don't think a
yeah.
lot of the dudes care. Like I've had dudes that don't drink come on, and I'll have a couple beers, or I'll say something. You know, a lot of the times if it's about fishing, they don't care. I feel
Right.
like, you know, they'll be like, oh, that he's used to it. You know, so and so's used to it because they're always around idiots, you know, that like to cuss and get fucked up. So it's kind of like they're most of the time the dudes are used to it. Or if I don't know someone, or if I don't know, I can't feel them out. And if it's on Zoom, I usually just try not to cuss as much unless
Yeah.
I got a good option for a good joke or something. You know, then I gotta fucking drop it. You know.
Right.
But
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
you know, that's usually everyone that I picked out to have on. I don't think I've ever like not put out an episode because we've been drunk. I've done one even recently, but Ballast Point Fishing Team round 2. I mean, we the first one I fucked up, second one was good, then the third one they fucked up. They got too drunk. So I mean, we're at Ballast Point, dude, and it was flowing, dude, like beers, like sculpin. So you're looking at 7%ers. So
Yeah.
it's like one beer is almost like having 2 courses. So it's like shit, you know.
Yeah. I mean, like
And I've
I,
learned that, yeah.
I've done it before. Like I've had to like apologize. Like, hey, dude, I don't want to put this out because they weren't even drunk. It was like I was the one that was drunk, and it's like, you know, because you know, like you know when you fucked up, and like so I'm like I gotta listen to it again. I'm listening to it, and like, God, did I really ask that question 7 times? Am I? And then like, at the end, you can just like feel me like I'm literally holding on to the grass of the conversation so I don't fall off the planet. You know, just bad. It's like, hey, dude, we got to do that again, dude. I'm sorry, and I had to like. You know, I've had to like redo conversations like that because I mean it happens. I mean, I can't imagine like being like the live aspect. I don't, to be honest with you, I don't know if I could do successfully like what you do with your show because I don't know. Dude, I feed into it. Like if there's someone doing shots of Jameson and I'm doing shots of Jameson, dude, I'm a party, dude. I'm gonna have a good time and like.
Well, that's why I've lost some good podcasts where I can't put them out because they'll be good buddies and they'll be like, dude, passed out on the floor in my backyard. Like where I'm like, my wife comes home, I'm like, not my fault this time. They did it. You know, they got fucked up, not me. So, I mean, it's a give and take. Like sometimes I know, okay, I'm going to, you know what kills me is when I do 4 in a row. I used to plan one day to do podcast. So this would be the issue is I would drink at the first one, 3 or 4 beers. Then the next guest would come in and then I'd have a couple more. Jeez. Then the next guest would come in and go, oh, I bring beers and I bring Fireball. Let's take shots. So then I'm fucked, dude. I'm like, oh, shit, you know? So that's the hard part is when I do these 3 and 4 in a day. And I'm like, fuck, dude. By the end of the day, I got to, like, learn how to, like, pace my drinking. Because if they like drinking, I'm going to, you know, that's kind of what we do on the podcast.
Right. Yeah.
You know? But, I mean, I haven't really had any major issues with guests or... You know, I've had a ton of people just seeing a message and not respond. Or they tell me they want to do it and then they just never fucking respond. And I'm like, I just say, okay, I'll know. That's it. You know, I gotta try. Or you get people messaging you, you got to get this dude on. You got to. I'm like, bro, if he lives in California and you haven't heard him, there's a reason he's not on. Right. I've tried a million times and I'm not going to go over there and jack someone off to come on the podcast. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, there's all kinds of background shit people don't know. You know, it's just like, here's what it is, dude.
Well, let me ask you, both of us doing this, whatever, our small little podcast. What do you think, like the future of? Because like anyone can do a podcast. You know, every day new podcasts are starting, new podcasts are failing, some are becoming successful, whatever. Like, I mean, the podcast world, even though it's been around for a while, it's still pretty new. Especially like when you're looking like an industry type of thing. Like we're looking like, you know, we're part of the fishing industry. You know what I mean? Like we're an access. We can be we can market it. All these kind of things. Like, what do you see like going on in the future for guys like us and all these podcasts? Like, what do you see it? Because I think that like as far as like the pro angler, like I'm not saying pro fishing will ever die, but there's not a lot of money. It's almost a waste of money when I talk to people like investing in pro anglers. Like it's the YouTubers, it's the podcasters. That's where it is now. I feel like because like they're the ones that are putting out content. They're the ones that are talking about things. They're the ones that are like blowing companies up and things like that. Like what do you see like the future of like podcasts and like kind of where we're gonna fit into this thing?
I see the only way that a podcaster is going to really make it. So like say say Palaniuk started a podcast.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, you know he's going to have every sponsor he wants.
And on that, he's going to have millions of listeners.
Okay. And he will have a lot of listeners. Okay. So they're going to sponsor his podcast right off the bat, you know? But that doesn't mean that you don't have a million listeners.
Right.
So I feel like the way it's going to go is that either A, there's a couple different routes. Either A, people got to think about what they really want when they do a new podcast, is because it's like if you start taking stuff for free and just advertising something, it's cool in the beginning. I've done it. But say you want to get paid later on down the line, you can't take stuff for free. It's got to be money. So say 10 podcasts come and start up and they start taking stuff for free. That's going to fuck the other podcasts that are trying to make a little money. Not saying like I'm here trying to fucking make a living off of it. But when you're trying to run an advertisement or something and you get other podcasts starting and they want to do it for free, it kind of makes it hard. Just like it does, I think, for the tournament anglers. Yeah. You know, they can get a YouTube guy that has, 500,000 subscribers and say, hey, I'll do it for a set of fishing rods, when the tournament angler is grinding away and he can't get paid that money because some YouTuber's taking all the
right, the whole pro staff argument. Yeah.
So that's one way about it. My way, I think I'm going to go is Patreon, because I feel like it's very hard for companies to touch me. They don't want to really touch the podcast. And I could show you I mean, I have the proofs in the pudding. I'm not going to sit here and toot my own fucking horn, but we have a lot of listeners, and I could see in the charts there's a lot of listeners, Right. So I mean, and sometimes we're beating out some of them podcasts that are bigger than, the bigger ones, And but I just don't feel like these companies still want to touch because I say cunt, fuck, shit, which is like, so does everyone and their fucking mom, dude.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I don't know what you want out of this. And when I started my podcast, I go, this is a podcast about fishing. It's not informative. Now, you might get some informative shit sometimes when I get Butch Brown on to tell me some shit like, or I get, Mike Gilbert, or I get, whoever it might be to come on and kind of break it down. But most of the time, it's just bullshitting. You get to meet the guy, to me. It's like you get to hang out with the dude you probably wouldn't hang out with, and you get to see how he acts, and we shoot the shit, and he might share a funny story. That's kind of how I wanted the podcast to start. And I think sometimes that gets misinterpreted by companies going, well, you're not informative and you say bad shit. I'm like, well, it's not really an informative. We're not Bass Talk Live. I'm not even Ike Live. I'm not having dudes on, like that are Kevin Van Dam or whoever to come on and break down his fishing techniques. That's not my podcast. It's a different podcast than that. And I'm not shitting on those. These guys led the way. They're the pros, dude. And Bass Talk Live is doing it 3 days a week. That's amazing. But that's not what I'm doing, and I feel like if companies don't want to jump on board, we're gonna have to figure another way out. And I think Patreon's a great way, because it's $5 a month. I put the money back from the Patreon, so when people sign up for $5 a month, I'll take that and I'll go buy a rod from Phoenix, and then I'll have like this month sponsored by Depps, so I have three 250s and a rod. So the first place winner gets a rod and a 250. I'm like, fuck, that's like. The rod I'm gonna get, it's probably like a fucking $300 or $400 or $500 setup for that. Right. Plus you get a 250, So that's how I'm giving back, instead of doing the. I guess when you find a company, go, hey, can you donate a couple baits? And I've told other people to do the same thing with their Patreons. Dude, get someone to donate some rods. Like, hey, dude, if you sign up for the Patreon, $5 a month helps pay for it. And people don't realize, like, this shit, this mic. This fucking mic cost me fucking $400, dude. This ain't a regular fucking mic,
Right.
Look at this shit. I mean, it's a fucking broadcasting mic. So it's like, yeah, I had to pay for all this.
Yeah.
My interface cost me, shit, almost $1,000. Plus you got to buy a fucking. I use a Mac, and I have 5 mics because I get fucking 5 dudes. I don't have the broadcasting. That's what I want. So the Patreon also helps pay for that.
Right.
So I mean, in the end, I think that Patreon's going to be the way to go, because like you said, there's going to be too many podcasts popping up, and they might not be all the same. Like the Guggen has their own podcast now, Guggen Squad. They did it for a minute, but I think they're re-coming at it again. And it's a little different because it's cut like a YouTube version.
Right.
Like, how people will cut and it's like fucking some weird fucking cut. And I'm like, I've watched them, and some of them are entertaining, and I like hearing. I listen to Bass Talk Live sometimes, for sure.
Yeah.
But what I think you're doing, what I'm doing, is a little different because we're kind of like, we don't need this as a second income. You know what I'm saying? You have jobs,
And I think like the most important like part is like when someone says they want something to do with me, I'm surprised. You know what I mean? Like I tried, and I feel like this is the biggest dork when I was like reaching out to companies. You write your little email and you get your little letterhead, and you send it, and you're like, what am I doing? What am I asking for? Like what? Like what do I care? You know what I mean? It's like I don't need P-Line to give me shit. I'm like you. I got a full-time job. I can buy my own. I don't need P-Line. And and when they do reach back to you, they're like, oh, we'll give you products. Like, dude, like, what makes you think I need product? Like I don't need your like I can
because to them that product's gonna for product. I'm gonna go, well, what are you gonna give me? How much in product? I want $5,000 in product. No way. Yeah. Well, then I don't want to do it because that product's only gonna cost you $600 to make.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. It's kind of like, dude, then I wouldn't mind product, but I want to be able to give it away, or I want to promote it, or I want to promote the podcast, or it's a. And the only reason that I say like it's nice to have some kind of income from this, because I'm working a second job doing this, and I'm not here complaining like a bitch. Oh, poor me, like it's more of like, dude, I take time away from my kids. My wife fucking gets pissed at me, like, and I have no time to fish, So it's like,
well, that's what I say. Like here's the thing, like. If I'm not getting anything out of it, like how long am I going to do it? And that was like some of the problems I had, like earlier this year and late last year was like, all right, I'm doing like 3 shows a week, like that's like let's just say that's a cumulative probably like 10 hours overall. And that's being like lenient on like when I'm suggesting how much time I put into this. It's like, I'm not getting anything out of it. I mean, it's a good time, and good times come and go, and there's other ways to have fun, Josh. So it's like, it's like. It's so easy for me to give this up because it's not my full-time job. And honestly, if I give this up, dude, like everything opens up again. Like I got so much shit I can do time, dude. And so it's like when you look at I'm not looking to get rich off this, but I'm also looking like this is an investment of time, and I kind of want to get something back on the investment. And I'm not saying it's not always about money, but there is something that I feel like, if you're going to stay motivated about it, I guess, there has to be something that keeps me motivated, that keeps me wanting to like this. I was excited to have this conversation with you, but it's like, but still at the same time, it's like,
well, this is the thing is no one knows the back end of it. I guess no one knows like what we're doing or putting into it. So it's like you see a podcast out every Monday. It's like, fuck, I had Easter yesterday. Yeah. I'm like, shit, I haven't even done the video yet. Because figure when I edit a video, like they say we got an hour long, that's back and forth from the camera. Okay, that takes me 2 hours to watch it. So I'm editing, going back and forth on Premiere Pro. Then I put it up, and the YouTube, I really don't even want to fucking do it, but it's just another form to get the podcast out there.
Right.
And it's a lot of work. The YouTube makes it even fucking harder than the audio. If we just did the audio, no problem, done. Right. But the YouTube, it's like I'm adding the video, I'm mixing it down, I'm doing this, adding filters, doing color correction, doing all this shit, and it's like. It's a lot of work. So, I mean, people don't see the back end of the podcast that people are doing. And there's got to be some. If you're making a bait, I'm sure people get expected to pay for that. And I feel like you're making something that people enjoy. No one can't get pissed if you're trying to get a little money from that. If you're spending the time to do it. Not just putting up one every fucking 3 weeks or 4 weeks. But consistently doing something. I can't see anyone complaining about, hey, I have a sponsor now. I mean, I know people, I have mid-roll reads since Phoenix is my title sponsor. And I'm sure you heard me say I'll never do a fucking mid-roll read, but I'm like, you got to go with the time sometimes, dude. Like, what the fuck are you going to do?
Yeah. Do 100%. So, all right, man, like, we'll wrap this thing up soon, but I was excited to talk to you. Go ahead, like tell people like where they can follow you, your show, and just some of the things that are coming out from you, something they can expect from you. In the near future.
You could follow us on all platforms, so you can follow us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, Cast and Crank Podcast, Instagram, Cast and Crank Podcast. Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna keep grinding away. I'm gonna be at 200. I'm probably gonna do something. So I did a little event at all the big ones. So 50th. We did a thing at this place in Huntington Beach. Super cool. We packed it out. It was like a couple hundred people. We did a live event. recorded it. Everything fucking went wrong like usual. And then the 100th episode we did at a fishing show called the Pacific Coast Sport Fishing Show. That was cool. I made a little bar, and I put up like this like bamboo shit in the back, and I pretty much just had revolving people coming on that I already knew. So it was a lot of fun. Sean Cooley from Cool Baits came on. Just people that I knew already came on. That was fun. Then for the 150th COVID, so I just had two of my buddies over and we got drunk. And then the 200th, I think I'm going to do something cool. Maybe so my buddy Andy owns a venue called Chain Reaction over here. And he's also the president of Fearless Records. So
I remember Fearless Records.
Yeah. So I'm thinking before I wanted to do an event there. It holds like 500 people venue, and it could probably feel like 20 tents in the front. And then do like a event with, companies, food. There's beer. There's a bar there. So at the venue. So that'd be really cool.
Yeah. So I guess like the last question, because the show, like one of the things I've learned like through the podcast, and I promise we'll wrap it up after this, but it's like it's not just the podcast anymore. There's other things that I got to do now. Like I started practicing with like the Instagram Live, and now I'm doing just whatever. Like it really does become like a business. It really does. Like it started off with just conversations, one-on-one conversations to like whatever. Like I'm already thinking about doing a tournament series for the through the podcast. Nick,
I was on my way to planning one.
Yeah.
And I started getting overloaded. That's what I was going to do, a thing called a wall banger. We have a big federal wall. It's like 9 miles long. And I was saying, okay, everybody, 3-man teams, $50 a pop, night tournament, fun. Then I'm doing the podcast. Then I'm doing something else. I'm like, I can't. This is just too much. I'm going to overload.
It really becomes like I have to, and maybe like I said, we'll end on this, but like you either got to put like a line in the sand or say fuck it and go as far as you want to go with it. And I think it's like the problem I'm having with the podcast now is like what do I? Because the thing is like it's like one of those things like you watch guys like for example like the informative fisherman Nick Smith. It's like one day he just said fuck it and he quit his job and he makes money to fish all the time. And I feel like a lot of times we get to that point in life and like this line, like I either got to draw this line in the sand or I got to say fuck it and go with this thing and push this thing and see what I can, what we can do with it, or it's just going to be this. And you know what I mean? It's just like, and that's a weird, because it's like one of those things like dude, being a musician, right? It's like, do I just go for it? And next thing you know, you're like, you're playing.
Here's the key answer to this. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think that hardcore bands or punk bands ever made a living? Really? No effects, maybe. A hardcore band? Not really. So, you can consider us the hardcore punk bands of podcast, fishing podcast, when you can consider Bass Talk Live, Ike and Ellie, the Taylor Swifts of podcasting, where they're making the living.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll never make a living the way I talk. And I don't know as much as these dudes. It's finding, we have our little niche crowd. Could we make some income off of it? I'm sure. But it's just never going to be, in my eyes, it'll never be like one of them ones where it's like, hey, brought to you by, Mercury, AFCO, whoever. They ain't going to fuck with us, They're going to be like, what did you say? You said cunt? You said someone got finger blasted? Yeah. We don't want to deal with you,
Fair
and
enough.
I get it.
Fair enough.
So, I mean, in my head, I think either you're going to have to change the drinking, and which I'm not doing, and the cursing, or you got to carve your own path,
right.
Which I feel like you could do that too. Like, what was that one? Smallmouth Crush? They do a podcast. Have you listened to theirs?
Yeah.
Theirs gets crazy sometimes. I've watched the live ones. They get wild. But, they kind of already had a following before. That's the thing is where me and you, I didn't have a following before this. No. You're building
it started off with one listener. It started off
exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember counting. I remember the first episode. I was like, the first week, I was like, oh, we got 300 fucking listens. I was like, wow. So to the first time we got, I think like in a week was like 3,000. I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
So now it's like in a month, like usually we hit about like 45 or 50,000 a month.
Yeah, you're crushing it. You're definitely killing it harder than I am.
It's cool. It's cool. I mean, it's all time though, dude. like I said, like you keep putting time on the water, time doing this fucking podcast.
Yeah.
As long as you enjoy it, man, that's the whole thing. And there's times where I don't enjoy it, and I'll be like, fuck this thing, dude. And then some guy messages me and goes, bro, your podcast gets me through the day. I'll be like, thanks, dude. I appreciate that. That's why I started it.
Yeah.
Someone to enjoy something like I did when I was doing construction, listening to fucking Joe Rogan every day because I needed to hear something to get through the fucking day. So that was the more of the reason. And in the end, like, I suggest you start a Patreon, dude. I suggest if you have a podcast, you're doing a fishing podcast, it's small, start a Patreon, dude. If people really like this and you're getting listens in the 3s, 4s, 5s, 100s on your podcast, you get 10 people to donate $10 or $5. That's, that pays for your hosting. I know you got to Anchor. You still got to pay Anchor, right?
No, Anchor's free.
They do it for free, but they put their own advertisement on Anchor, right? The advertiser shit.
Well, they want me to advertise. They'll pay me to advertise them, but I don't.
But when you put them up, do they host it for free?
Yeah,
they do. So I pay my own hosting. So I there's nothing on there, but it doesn't say, hey, this is Anchor. How you do it? No. So mine also goes to iTunes as well too, right?
Yeah, it goes everywhere.
Okay, so I pay for the hosting. I pay for Pro Tools. I pay for Premiere. I pay for all these things monthly too as well. So it's kind of like if you get 10 people to pay $5 or $50. Say you get 50 people. Fuck man, you're looking pretty good. That's a little bit of money that could pay a fucking bill. It could pay for a new mic. It could pay for headphones. Like all kinds of shit. So I think if you're doing a podcast and you're gonna start one, look at Patreon. That's a good start. And just try to be different, man. That's like anyone else. Like a bait makers always say, try to do something different. Try to make a different fucking podcast. Try to make it about something else. Like it could be fishing, but it could be a different point of view. You could do a 20-minute podcast going, hey, give us your top 5 tips from this dude. Go. Who do you want to kill? Who you fuck? Who do you marry? Go. You know what I'm saying? Like something like that, where you kind of come with a different, attitude. But like I think what you're doing is you're in the same club as me. We're doing something where we're a bit on the rougher edge. Outdoors Unfiltered's up north where I'm at. They're doing the same thing. We had what was his name? There was one in Texas too, a buddy of mine, Joe, and he had I think it was something bass, big bass. Or Bass Dream or Bass something. I forgot, my bad. But it's another one to check out. There's a lot of cool podcasts that pop up. And I'll check out new fishing podcasts because I'm like, I want to hear if it's something good, man. Of course,
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's but like you said, a lot of them are just the same old shit.
Yep.
But thank God for podcasts like us pulling our dicks out and showing us what we can do.
All right, brother. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Yeah.
Dude, hopefully one day we can actually drink beer together or whatever. Like I'm on the West Coast every now and then, so but dude, I love your show.
Gotta hit me up, dude. Hit me up, and you can come on.
I love what you do. What I mean? Like I thought it was really weird. Like I thought it was original, and then I found your podcast. I'm like, this motherfucker's been doing this for like years. So I appreciate it, dude.
But
man.
You're still doing something different. You don't think that because someone else is doing something. You're doing it from a different perspective, kayaking more. I'm doing it from assault. That kind of got more into swim bait. So it's like your perspective is going to be different always, dude. So don't I would never let anyone like get in your head and trying to, like you see something or you look at numbers. Don't let people get in your head like that or things get in your head like that because you're doing something fucking different, bro.
Right.
So,
but yeah, man, love the show. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
I appreciate it, dude.
Cool.
All right. Talk to you later.
Are you done recording right now?